My name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. I do not speak with the polish of career diplomats. I do not wear the cologne of multinational boardrooms. I was not trained in Washington nor groomed in Geneva. I speak from the battlefield where my people bleed and the soil remembers. I speak for a nation that has long been treated like a debtor's prison. And today I speak directly to the International Monetary Fund, not with trembling hands, but with a voice rooted in centuries of African pain and now African awakening.
Picture this, late 2022, global currencies are tumbling, but suddenly the Ghanaian cedi surges ahead, becoming the world's best performing currency. For Ghanaians, it was a rare moment of pride, a sign that maybe, just maybe, things were turning around. You'd expect applause from the world's financial referees, right? Not quite. Enter the IMF, not with congratulations, but with a warning. They questioned the cedi's rally, hinting it was too good to be true. It's like winning a race and being told you must have cheated. The IMF's skepticism cast a shadow over Ghana's celebration. Their message, success is only valid if it follows their playbook. For many Africans, this felt like a familiar story, one where independent achievement is met with doubt, not encouragement. The narrative seemed clear. If you don't follow the rules, your success is suspect. Ghana's moment became another chapter in the ongoing struggle for recognition on its own terms. Why is it that when an African country wins, the world's first instinct is to question, not cheer? The IMF's reaction wasn't just about numbers, it was about who gets to define success. For Ghanaians, it was a reminder that the world's approval often comes with strings attached. The cedi's rise was real, but so was the skepticism it faced. This wasn't just about currency, it was about rewriting the story of what's possible for African nations. Ghana's experience exposed the double standard at the heart of global finance, and for many, it was a call to rethink who gets to set the rules. The world watched, but the message was clear. Independent success is still a radical act. So why did the IMF react with suspicion? Officially, they said Ghana's fundamentals, high debt, bailout talks, didn't match the cedi's surge. It's like seeing someone in debt suddenly driving a sports car. You'd wonder how. But there's more beneath the surface. The IMF has a one-size-fits-all model: austerity, privatization, deregulation. Ghana's approach, cutting taxes, stimulating growth, challenged that model.
Ghana is projected to produce more gold in 2025. That's according to the country's Chamber of Mines on Friday.
If Ghana could succeed on its own terms, others might try too. That's a threat to the IMF's authority. Their skepticism wasn't just financial. It was existential. When the IMF doubts you, investors get nervous and the success story can unravel. The warning wasn't just about Ghana, it was about protecting a system. The cycle is clear: homegrown solutions are met with doubt, making real change harder. Was Ghana's success a mirage, or did the IMF's doubt make it disappear? The answer says a lot about who gets to decide what's possible. Critics like Dr. Arikana Chihombori Kwao don't mince words. She argues the IMF and World Bank weren't built to help Africa, but to keep it dependent.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break.
Their loans come with strings. Cut spending, sell assets, open markets, leaving countries trapped in debt. The analogy, not doctors but loan sharks. The goal isn't self-sufficiency, but managed poverty, just enough to keep resources flowing out. Ghana's defiance threatened this model. If a country heals itself, it doesn't need the medicine. The real question, are these institutions partners in development or architects of dependency? Ghana's story forces us to confront that uncomfortable truth. So, what did Ghana actually do? Facing soaring inflation and a collapsing cedi, the government broke from tradition. Instead of IMF-style austerity, they cut taxes to boost spending and froze public sector hiring. They slashed government salaries and suspended payments on most foreign debt. A bold, risky move. The message prioritized the local economy over foreign creditors, at least for now. This was a radical shift from the usual script. Ghana bet on its own people and businesses to drive recovery. They negotiated with the IMF from a position of action, not desperation. It was a gamble. Fix the car yourself before calling the expensive mechanic. On the ground, Ghanaians celebrated. The cedi's rise was a lifeline. Social media buzzed with pride. Cedi as king trended. It felt like proof that homegrown solutions could work. Some international analysts were cautiously optimistic, seeing bold action and a government willing to take risks. But the IMF's response was a cold shower. Their public doubt sent a powerful signal to investors: don't trust this rally. The IMF's skepticism can scare off the very investment needed for recovery. So, while Ghanaians cheered, the world's financial gatekeeper cast doubt. The split was stark: local hope versus institutional skepticism. The IMF's reaction shaped the global narrative, not triumph, but uncertainty. Ghana's story became a lesson in how hard it is to change the script. Even when you win, the rules can change. To see the other side, look at Egypt. In 2016, Egypt followed the IMF's playbook to the letter: currency devaluation, subsidy cuts, new taxes. The result? The pound lost half its value, prices soared, and poverty skyrocketed. The IMF praised the reforms, but ordinary Egyptians suffered. Official stats showed nearly a third of the population below the poverty line. The cure was worse than the disease. Egypt's macro numbers improved, but the people paid the price. Ghana saw this and chose a different path. Why repeat a formula that hurts the very people it's supposed to help? Sometimes following the rules means losing the game. Patterns emerge. IMF policies often serve Western interests. The US holds veto power. These institutions aren't neutral. Privatization and market liberalization benefit Western corporations, not local economies. When countries open markets, cheap foreign goods flood in, hurting local producers. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The system keeps developing nations dependent, supplying raw materials and buying finished goods. It's economic colonialism, controlled through debt, not armies. Ghana's brief success was a threat, proof that another way is possible. The IMF's reaction was about defending the status quo. The rules are designed to keep the powerful on top. So where does Africa go from here? Decades of following IMF rules have led to debt and dependency. Ghana's defiance and Egypt's obedience show two paths, one risky, one painful. The call for economic independence is growing louder. African nations are looking inward, building regional trade, creating their own financial institutions. It's about putting people before creditors. Breaking free won't be easy. There will be threats and pressure, but the alternative is stagnation. Ghana's story is a microcosm of a bigger fight, the right to choose your own path. More Africans are asking hard questions and demanding new answers. That, in itself, is a revolution.
For too long, the IMF has posed as a benevolent doctor prescribing economic treatment to sick nations. But what we've learned, what we've suffered, is that your medicine often kills the patient. Your loans arrive with smiles, but they are poisoned arrows wrapped in contracts. You speak of stabilization, but you deliver strangulation. You speak of reform, but what you really mean is obedience to models built in foreign labs never meant for African soil. But we are not your laboratory. We are not your experiment. We are not pawns in your economic chess game. Burkina Faso and the whole of Africa is waking up. And when we wake, we do not ask for permission to breathe. You see, I come not to beg for cancellation. I come not to plead for relief. I come to tell you what no African leader has dared say loudly enough. We no longer accept economic policies that reduce our people to beggars. While our gold lines the vaults of the West, we no longer dance to the rhythm of conditionalities that gut our public services, cripple our farmers, and force our youth into exile. We no longer accept being told that good governance means handing over our national wealth to foreign firms with smiling consultants. So today we begin a new conversation, not one between debtor and lender, but one between equals, between nations, between truth and falsehood. And this is not a press release. This is a reckoning, and it begins now. One, the chains of debt, a modern form of slavery. Let us speak plainly, without euphemism, without the polite lies of diplomacy. Debt, the kind you offer Africa, is not a tool of development. It is not a bridge to prosperity. It is a shekel. It is modern slavery, dressed in suits and spreadsheets. You call it structural adjustment. We call it structural punishment. You label it financial discipline. We experience it as generational despair. You offer it as partnership. But when one partner profits while the other bleeds, it is not partnership, it is plunder. Let me ask you, how can a nation rich in gold, uranium, cobalt, and fertile land be poor? How can a continent that fuels the industries of the world not afford to feed its own children? We are told it is mismanagement, corruption, incompetence. Yes, Africa has its wounds, but many of those wounds were inflicted by the very hands now offering us Band-Aids soaked in interest. Let me tell you what this debt looks like in real life, not on your PowerPoint slides, but on our streets. It looks like children studying by candlelight because the national power grid was privatized and sold to foreign investors who charge prices our people cannot pay. It looks like hospitals with broken beds, no antibiotics, and mothers dying in childbirth because your conditions demanded we slash public spending to qualify for your help.